If Canada fast-tracked 5% defense spending rapidly, yes, it could be done. Here is how. How Canada can increase defense spending rapidly without harming the economy. Canada's commitment to reach 5% of GDP defense spending by 2035 represents a massive undertaking that requires careful economic planning to avoid negative consequences. While the scale is unprecedented, Canada can implement strategic approaches to rapidly increase defense spending while actually boosting rather than harming the economy. The economic multiplier effect of defense spending. Defense spending can generate significant positive economic effects when properly managed. Canada's defense industry contributed $9.6 billion in GDP and supported 78,000 jobs across the economy in 2020. The economic impact extends far beyond direct military spending, as each defense dollar circulates through the economy multiple times. Research consistently shows that defense spending has a multiplier effect between 0.6 and 1.2, meaning every dollar spent on defense generates between 60 cents and $1.20 in additional economic activity. While some studies suggest lower multipliers for highly indebted countries, Canada's relatively strong fiscal position provides more room for positive economic impacts. The Royal Bank of Canada noted that the economic multiplier effects of defense spending announcements could be favorable in the short run, particularly when investments focus on domestic production and capabilities. This is because defense spending can stimulate demand, create jobs, and drive technological innovation that benefits civilian sectors. Financing strategies that minimize economic harm. 1. Targeted tax efficiency rather than broad increases. Instead of implementing across-the-board tax increases, Canada can focus on closing tax loopholes and improving collection efficiency. This approach generates revenue without significantly impacting economic growth or competitiveness. 2. Strategic borrowing during favorable conditions. Canada can leverage its AAA credit rating and relatively low debt-to-GDP ratio compared to other G7 nations. By borrowing for defense investments during periods of economic growth, the multiplier effects can help offset the fiscal costs over time. 3. Reallocation of existing expenditures. As Parliamentary Budget Officer Yves Giraud noted, meeting the 5% target would require a major shift of government priorities away from social spending, for example. However, this can be done strategically by reducing inefficient programs while maintaining essential services. Procurement reform as economic catalyst. Streamlining Canada's defense procurement system represents the most immediate opportunity to increase spending effectiveness. Currently, the Department of National Defence consistently fails to spend 25% of its annual capital budget due to procurement delays. Reform initiatives can unlock billions in stalled spending while creating economic momentum. Key reform measures. Accelerated procurement mechanisms. Canada can expand the use of urgent operational requirements, UORs, and commercial off-the-shelf COTS solutions to bypass traditional procurement bottlenecks. These mechanisms can reduce procurement timelines by 50 to 70% while maintaining quality standards. Digital transformation. The government is implementing an electronic procurement solution, EPS, that provides expanded capabilities to track and manage procurement projects. This digital platform can reduce administrative burden and accelerate approval processes. Risk-based approval framework. The current risk-based approval, RBA pilot, has already resulted in an average savings of 62 business days per eligible defense project. Expanding this framework can dramatically accelerate spending deployment. Building domestic defense industrial capacity. Canada's defense industrial strategy offers the greatest opportunity to boost the economy while increasing defense spending. Internalizing the supply chain for defense equipment would boost the domestic economy by creating jobs and keeping government dollars in the country. Current industrial foundation. Canada already possesses significant defense industrial capabilities, including $7.4 billion in defense industry and value chain GDP contribution. The aerospace sector alone employs thousands and supplies components for global defense programs, including F-35 fighter jets. Strategic industrial investments. The government has committed $2.1 billion to strengthen relationships with the Canadian defense industry. This investment can create multiplier effects exceeding 1.5x when focused on domestic production capabilities. Regional economic development. Canada's defense industry is distributed across regions, with Ontario, 41%, Quebec, 22%, Western Canada, 19%, and Atlantic Canada, 18%, all hosting significant defense industrial capacity. Increased spending can drive economic growth in all regions simultaneously. Infrastructure investment strategy. Canada can leverage the 1.5% GDP infrastructure component of the 5% target to drive broader economic benefits. Prime Minister Carney noted that a little less than a third of that overall number is spending on things that, quite frankly, we're already doing, including critical minerals, development, and infrastructure resilience. Dual-use infrastructure projects. Investments in ports, airports, communications networks, and transportation systems serve both defense and civilian purposes. These projects generate immediate construction jobs while creating long-term economic value. NORAD modernization. The $38.6 billion investment over 20 years for NORAD modernization includes significant northern infrastructure development that will enhance Canada's economic presence in the Arctic while creating jobs in remote regions. Innovation and technology acceleration. Defense spending can drive technological innovation with significant civilian applications. Historically, defense R&D spending leads to civilian innovations, with studies showing that a 10% increase in defense R&D spending leads to a 5.6% increase in private R&D. Advanced manufacturing. Canada's defense spending can accelerate adoption of artificial intelligence, blockchain, and Internet of Things (IoT) technologies. These investments enhance both military and civilian capabilities while creating high-skilled jobs. Cybersecurity development. The planned $560 million investment in Canadian Armed Forces Cyber Command will enhance national cybersecurity while creating a robust civilian cybersecurity sector. Timing and sequencing for maximum economic benefit. Rapid defense spending increases must be carefully sequenced to maximize economic benefits. Year 1, 2, foundation building, accelerate recruitment and retention programs, $2.6 billion committed. Implement procurement reforms and digital systems, begin infrastructure upgrades and maintenance programs. Year 3, 5, capacity expansion scale, domestic production capabilities. Execute major equipment acquisitions using reformed procurement. Develop advanced technology partnerships. Year 6, 10, full implementation. Achieve sustained 5% GDP spending levels. Maintain strong domestic industrial base. Export defense capabilities to allies. Risk mitigation strategies managing inflation risks. Rapid spending increases can create inflationary pressures in specific sectors. Canada can mitigate this by diversifying suppliers, investing in capacity expansion, and coordinating with allies to avoid bidding wars for limited resources. Debt, sustainability. While deficits may increase initially, the economic multiplier effects of well-targeted defense spending can generate sufficient economic growth to maintain debt sustainability. Canada's strong fiscal position provides flexibility to manage temporary deficit increases. Political sustainability. Demonstrating clear economic benefits through job creation and regional development can maintain public support for sustained defense spending increases. Conclusion: Canada can rapidly increase defense spending to meet NATO's 5% GDP target, while actually strengthening rather than harming the economy. The key lies in strategic implementation focused on domestic industrial development, procurement reform, and infrastructure investment. By leveraging defense spending as an economic catalyst rather than a fiscal burden, Canada can achieve both security and prosperity objectives simultaneously. The challenge is not whether Canada can afford increased defense spending, but whether it can afford not to make these investments. With proper planning and execution, Canada's defense spending increases can drive economic growth, create jobs, and enhance industrial capacity while meeting critical security requirements in an increasingly dangerous world.